Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is Sunday, August 7th, 2022. It's good to be back. It's also not good to be back because I was on vacation last week. That's why I missed the show, and we had a great time, but it is good to be back. I'm just kidding. I love doing the show. We got a great one tonight. Josh Christian from Toxik is our guest. We'll be talking to Josh in about 45 minutes or so. Getting on a lot of music between now and then. Talk about everything going on in the world of metal. Right there, Heaven. In the beginning, I remember the first time I heard that song, it was all these mixes of different riffs from some of the great metal songs over the years and hard rock songs, and I became a big Heaven fan. I went out and bought that first record in, what was it, 1982, I believe it came out? Yeah, I think it was 82. When I bought it, it was called Bent, and then years and years later, probably even decades later, I heard that there was another version of the record, I guess the original version, released in Australia called Twilight of Mischief. And I actually went and bought that maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I found it on Discogs and I picked up an original copy of that because I had to have both for some reason because I was a big Heaven fan. You know, Alan Fry passed away many years ago now. He was sick and I had him on the show right before he did pass away. And he was such a super sweet guy, and it's a great loss because Heaven was just getting ready to get started again and things were picking up. We'll never get to know what came out of that. But we did get a whole bunch of songs that were never released from Alan right before he passed away, and we have played them on over the years. And maybe we'll get on one more this month. Maybe we'll make it a Heaven month. Who knows? We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to keep the music flowing here today. How about a little Running Wild? Satan.
Going into madness, hope and wing, for disgrace. Jump
to rise and devour the living. We will give to the dead power over the living, that they may outnumber the living. One by one we will take you.
All right, Sacrifice with the Awakening. That's not what I wanted to play. I keep forgetting on CDs, like, on the records, that song led into the next one. Just like, a lot of other bands. I had two songs on a record. That one was a little bit of an intro to the next one. And I keep forgetting on CDs it doesn't work that way when you download them off of a CD. But I do apologize. It's a great song, but it's not what I wanted to play. And right before that, Ichabod Crane. That's George Neal's band. That was The Final Warning. George Neal from Halloween. This is a band he put together about 10 years ago almost. They put out two really good records, and really nothing much has come out of the band since the last one, Beyond Eternity, in 2016, and then had Day of Reckoning in 2014. I know George has been sick over the years, and he hasn't done a lot musically. They were supposed to play at the Keepers of the Flame Festival in Mexico a couple of weeks ago, but they were one of the first bands that backed out. I think that was on the band itself, just like with Tyrant. Tyrant didn't play also, but those were band issues that caused them not to play. Attacker, they just didn't get the airfare, so they didn't show up. And now Medieval, I think it was Medieval that were complaining that they didn't get paid or something, and the promoter was saying that he paid extra airfare for the wives or girlfriends to come, and he thought that was the compensation for the money or something. And I'm not really sure of the whole story, but it looks like they just canceled next year's edition of the festival. To me, I think he was getting a little ambitious. He says that, he was just a fan and he wanted to see these bands, so he decided to put on a festival. If you don't really have experience promoting, it's probably something you shouldn't do with a festival for the first time. Maybe start out with some local bands and local shows, get your feet wet. Let's not jump into a festival where you have to fly in. A lot of international bands, or bands from the U.S., which I guess would still be considered international, even though it's Mexico for us. But there's a lot involved in that. Especially the way the world is right now. COVID, things are still up in the air. With festivals and shows. Then there's nothing but problems with the airlines these days. I mean, the prices of tickets are through the roof. Then you got to hope that the flights can even make it off where they're coming from because they're getting canceled. I think he bit off way more than he could chew. I don't think he had bad intentions. He just didn't have any experience doing it. So he announced a second festival, and he had Raven on the bill, Exciter. He went for some of the bigger, underground bands. He had Agent Steel in there, which probably would have bombed that anyway. I seriously doubt by the time the show came around, something would have happened, and they would have played just like they do with every other show or festival that they're a part of. So I don't think that would have happened. But that was getting a little ambitious, especially after all the shit that you went through on the first one, in my opinion. But as far as I know, right now, that festival is canceled. There won't be another one. So who knows? Maybe he'll decide to do it again. I know he had a lot of bands lined up on there. We'll see what happens. Never say never, I guess, in this business, right? Okay, let's get back to the music right now. Well, this weekend we went away this past weekend, and my daughter called me up with my son-in-law to say that they're pregnant, and we're going to have a second grandbaby in about 8 months from now. So my wife and I are very excited to be grandparents again. My little mini-me, Sophia, will have a baby brother or sister come this spring. So let's do a little kiss, Flaming Youth, because that's what my grandkids are going to be.
How
Damn, I'm such a big fan of Liege Lord, especially that first record, Freedom's Rise. I love it. Dark Tale, right before that, had the leather, the beautiful Garza sisters out of San Antonio, Texas. Sylvia Ruth and what was the name of the last sister? I'm drawing a blank. I had them on my show years ago too. It was Sylvia Ruth and Sandy. I don't think the drummer is in the band anymore. I think they have somebody else right now. She was coming. She was living in another state. I had the band on the show many years ago. They redid their record in 2005. I mean, they did it on their own. It kind of like just went nowhere really because it was independent. I don't think they promoted it or they pushed it. And when I had them on the show, I mean, they were a bunch of sweet girls, but they were funny because like they all answered everything together in sync. I mean, when I asked a question to one of them, all three responded at the same time with the same answers. It was almost like it was rehearsed, which nothing is rehearsed on this show, as you can tell if you listen to it. But it was amazing how all three had the same exact train of thought, and they answered every question the same way. I remember Tommy was calling in back then, with me doing the show, and after they had finished, the interview was done, Tommy and I were talking about something else, and he cursed about something, and they called me up the next day. They were so mad because they thought that we were cursing at them. I was like, no, 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 you have to go back and listen to the show. This was after we were done with you. We were talking about something completely different. But they were really a bunch of cute-looking girls, and they're still pretty hot today, I gotta say. At least these were the days when you could say girls were hot, and girls actually promoted themselves in a sexual manner. Doesn't go on anymore. We live in a different world today, but God, I miss the 80s. I really miss the 80s. All right, let's get back. We'll do another set of music, and then we'll start playing some new Toxik, and we'll get the interview with Josh right after that. So, how about, Iman was just asking me about, some of the bands on my playlist this week, so I'm going to get to maybe a few of them right now in this set. But he was talking about the whole Ghost Merciful Faith thing. Even I didn't read enough of that article, that interview with King Diamond, to talk about that this week, so we'll get to that next week. But I did read the article with King Diamond where they were asking him about Michael Denner's comments that he's made recently. Some of those interviews that they're playing right now were done with Michael Denner a while ago, I guess before the pandemic started, and they were talking about the Fate reunion, how he felt blindsided and he was left out. And King Diamond's answer is, this isn't a Merciful Fate reunion. We're just picking up where we left off. So he's going back to that lineup of the 90s, outside of Joey Vera, who's been brought in because the old bass player from the 90s isn't a part of the band right now, Charlie D'Angelo. So he's like, how do we kick out the drummer and the guitar player, Mike Weed, who played on all those 90s Merciful Fate records when we stopped doing it, so they're a part of the band. I guess that's an easy out for saying that, not having Michael Denner, but you know what? There's been such a gap between Merciful Fate in the 90s and now, 20-something years, even more than that. It would have been nice to have had Michael Denner in there, and he did mention Kim Ruz as not being a part of it too, but never said why. And I think Kim Ruz has some medical issues also, and he probably wouldn't have been up to playing. But who knows what goes on behind the scenes, why he's not a part of it either. Maybe he could have made it if he got in shape, or maybe I don't know if he's still sick, or nobody knows what his medical problems are. And, it's nobody's business but his own, but, it would have been nice to at least had the 4 of the 5 people. You couldn't have Timmy in there no more, but, maybe bring another bass player in. I just don't like, Joey Vera being in there. To me, it doesn't feel like Merciful Fate with him in there. I think he's a great bass player. Love him and I'm a saint, but I'm not saying anything bad about him personally. I'm just having a hard time with him and Fate. That's the whole thing. So King Diamond says this isn't a reunion. When will it be a reunion? Will there ever be a reunion? I doubt it. You're going to get just him and Hank going out every now and then and doing a set of old music. That's about it. All right, let's get back to what we were doing before I get back to the music. Here's Over the Top by Prayer.
Everything his bloodline, turned it into debris. But still you haven't tamed the sea. Yeah.
All right, Paul Di'Anno's Battles. I know I talk a lot of shit about the guy, but the Battlezone records were pretty good, I have to be honest with you. The Land God gave to Cain. Right before that, Cauldron with Frozen in Fire. And we started things off with Prayer and Over the Top. All right, let's get on some brand new Toxik. The song is called Straight Razor, and then we'll go right into the interview with Josh right after this and play some more music by the band. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Returning back to glory.
Mike, how are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you? I'm so sorry, man. I was just hanging up with Kelly. They got me booked up pretty tight on these interviews. I am so sorry about that. I was going to call you back. I saw you called the first time, and I missed it. I was on my Bluetooth. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. No, I figured that. I know, like, back to back, and it gets really, it can be a lot sometimes.
Yeah. Like, I'm talking to him, and the phone starts to ring, and I see the 347, and I'm like, oh, I bet that's the next interview. So, anyway, sorry about that, brother. What's
No
shaking?
problem.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man, and I have to tell you, I'm happy that there's new music by Toxik. Waited a long time, and it was well worth the wait.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah, so far, everybody seems to really like the shit. I think we did it right.
I guess it's worth. People keep saying this is the follow-up to Think This, but there was new music between then and now. I mean, so how do you kind of place this album, like in that timeline?
Well, it's funny. You're the first person to say that to me, too. It's like almost like we didn't do any of the stuff in between Think This and this record.
Yeah.
And we did. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm coming off of COVID here. Well, I'll tell you. I'm saying specifically. I don't want to make a mess here. Okay, yeah. Because I'm from New York, so I'm going to drop an F-bomb from here.
So am I. So we're both on the same page.
All right. So good. Fuck it. All right. So, this Morta wouldn't be possible without the EPs. Like, that's all I have to say. It was a process to get here. Literally, it seems to me that it took the 7 years that it did for us to congeal and really become what we are now, and that's why Dismorta sounds the way it does. The reason Dismorta has so much more power than what was on the EPs is because it's not a solo record with guest players, which is basically what the EPs were. This is a real band that's gone out and played together a bunch. We're in the studio together. We recorded together. I recorded James's drums with him, like at his house. Like, we're like, this was a real family effort, so, and you can hear that. It's that a lot of what the intensity is on the new record is that band energy that you get when you've got 4 or 5 guys that are really on the same page and wanting to do something. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, most of the guys you're playing with now have been in the band between 3 and 6 or 7 years, so you can hear the tightness that's come about from being together for that long now. And when you go back, I mean, people like, there was Inhumanity EP, The Breaking Class, Kinetic Closure, and, people like, oh, Mike's back in the band, Charlie's back in the band. Nobody knew what to make heads or tails out of. Now that you said they were kind of like, your thing with guests coming in, it completely makes sense now.
Yeah. And me trying to revive the band and trying to figure out the right way to do it. Because as a fan myself, I'm not crazy about bands that reunite and come back and it's only got one guy. You know what I mean? Like, I like to see more than one guy in the original band if I can. But you know what? I really gave it my best effort to do that for the fans, but also for the legacy of the band as well. But I have to say, and I say this with a clear conscience. In fact, Mike just texted me this morning and wished me happy birthday. We had to get here, and there is no hard feelings. Charlie was great on Breaking Class. I loved what he did. He did come in and help write, but those songs were already written. Mike was great on Inhumanity. He did his thing, but those songs were already written. On Dismorta, not so much. Dismorta, the songs were done. I had demos, but they weren't written. Ron came in and wrote them with me. The drums were mostly done, but Jim really put his spin on them and made them his. Same thing with the bass, same thing with the rhythm guitars. It's a band, and that is the difference. You can hear it 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that you've been like the primary songwriter of the band going all the way back to the early days. And when you're writing, I mean, are you writing for the rest of the band? Are you writing for the singer that's in the band at the time? Or are you just writing for yourself and they kind of have to adapt to your style of what you're putting out?
No, and I guess I sort of answered that before you even asked it. No, I do write for the guys that I'm with, and the more I'm with you, the more we work together, the more my songwriting is going to reflect that. Like, I've been with Jim for 7 years now, the drummer, and Shane right behind him 5-6 years, and I know those guys so well. I know what they do, and and the writing was absolutely for them and for Ron too. Yeah, because I'm very lucky, man. I mean, just like all BS aside, to have people that play at the level that the guys that I play with do, is I'm fortunate, because Toxik's not easy to play. It's hard to find people that can really make this stuff work and pull it off live, and it's not easy to find. That's why it took as long as it did. So yeah, I'm really happy, man. I got a great band right now.
Yeah, that you do. I mean, Toxic were onto something. I think when you go back to like the mid '80s with World Circus, you were doing stuff that really, I mean, there was a band here and there kind of doing a mix of stuff that was like technical thrash metal, and it was progressive. You had a lot going on in your music, so it was kind of hard, I guess, maybe for fans to define back then. But being from New York and seeing you guys and being there from the very beginning, when I got the Wasteland demo, it was I've been a fan, but how was it putting this together back then?
I think it was like it was for everybody else in those days. It was real organic. We just got together with friends and we made a band, and that's how you put bands together. And I think it still happens that way for a lot of people. But excuse me, hold on one second, please. I had literally just coming out of having corona for the last 4 or 5 days. I was real sick, so
That's
today's the
terrible.
first day I feel better. It's the worst, second time. So. But anyway, I think we were like a lot of other bands that we were neighborhood guys that wanted to put something together. Maybe a little bit of a difference in that we were all New York City kids and kind of a diverse backgrounds. In that respect, we were different where we lived up in Westchester County. Tad and I, as an example, we're both New York City kids who live, an hour north from where we're really from. So you kind of tend to find one another. So I feel like we found, like, one by one, those guys kind of came into sort of like now, the right chemistry of people came together. But nowadays, the way it works now with TikTok and YouTube and the formats that people actually get exposure on, I don't know. I don't know what Toxic would be like now. I don't know if we could have put together the way we did then. Now, I'm not sure. I don't know. Things are different. That's for
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when the band broke up, we were kind of living in an analog world of pen and paper, and when you come back,
Yes.
everything's done through computers and social media, and everything's digitized. It was a whole new world. It's not like you disappeared during that whole time and didn't know what was going on. When you came back, did you have to take a different approach on how you were going to promote the band compared to, the old days? We stuck flyers up on telephone poles. We went to the clubs. We met people. We told them about our bands, and we played. And, it was a lot different compared to the way bands are doing things now.
Mike, we used to take stickers and go through the toll booths over the bridges and stick our stickers on the toll booth. Right?
Yep.
Doing that? Okay,
Yep.
Everybody did it. Yeah, man. No, I get it. I go, totally. No, it's so different. Yeah, tragically, right? Here's the tragedy. Our Facebook page got hacked, and we had 30,000 followers, and it's been really hard to get back up to that number. Now, you can almost like laugh to yourself, like, you lost 30,000. Oh, you lost your Facebook fans. Oh, but you know what? In today's day and age and nowadays world musically, that's a big thing, man. That really hurt. It's like when we lost 30,000 people that we had a direct connection to through social media like that really hurt us. So,
Sure.
And I think that was like almost like getting the towel snap in the locker room. It's like, oh, and it's like, okay, let's get serious about that part of things now too. So, yeah, we've had to sharpen it along the way. We've had to figure out what we were doing. Me being the boomer in the band, I'm really bad. I'm sure the rest of the guys are just fucking annoyed with me sometimes. but what are you going to do, man? So we're figuring it out as we go. But no, I'd say we're a little bit better than that. Right now, Shane, the bass player, is cringing because he does a lot of our tech for us, and he's like, "Shut up, Josh."
It is crazy, but I'm saying, with Ron on vocals now, I mean, it brings a whole new dynamic to the band, in my opinion. I mean, how was it with Ron, like, going back over the older songs? Was there any things that you had to adapt to? Because you had two different singers with two completely different styles, in my opinion. And now he comes in, and he's got to kind of encompass both of them, but yet make it his own.
Well, I think he's really expertly suited to do just that. He seems like that's kind of like what he's great at. He has Mike's abilities in terms of his range, but he's got that sort of emotional connect that Charlie did with people. Like when we go out and we do There Stood the Fence live, Ron sounds a lot like Charlie on that. He really is able to sort of ape that thing that Charlie had going on in that tune. And then when we cut back to our own stuff with Ron, his stuff, he's got his own voice with it. He's really adapted to that really well. I feel like now we probably cover the first two records better than at any time because he's so good at doing both singers. Like Charlie really couldn't do Mikey that well, and Mikey doesn't do Charlie that well, but Ron can do them both. So, and again, that's kind of so I almost feel bad saying that, but not really. I mean, it's a tribute to who Ron is as a singer, and it's what Toxik needs. So really, it's kind of perfect. But the guy kills it, you know.
Oh, I think so, absolutely. And I know the last couple of years have been hard for every band. I mean, nobody could get anything going the last 2 years. The shows were like, you couldn't play live. Bands weren't releasing any new music because they couldn't go on and promote it. Now there's like an avalanche of everything. Every band's putting out the records they've been holding on to for the last 24 months. Bands are starting to play live again. I mean, so how's it been? I know, like, I think one of the last shows you did was like when you went out on tour. You were over back in Eindhoven again. That must have been a great show.
It was. Some bands have been holding on to their music for 24 months. I've been holding on to our music for 24 years. So, it's like I was ready to go now. The Eindhoven show was phenomenal. Actually, that last run that we did in 19, going into 20 was just some of the best we've ever been. This unit just doing its thing. We were really, really strong on those shows. The crew, the 70,000 tons of metal was, really strong. Again, we're on. The band is in a good place. We've been working together for years. I almost feel like a baseball team or a football team. I feel like professional sports. It's like, we've been training and now we're ready to go. It's like, and it's the truth. It's like we put all this work into it, and now the record's out. We go out and we go to play, and we know these songs so well that when we're on stage, it's like, I don't know, man. Like we just know them so well now. Like we really have it down. So it's cool. It feels great. I couldn't be happier, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, this Mortar from the opening track, which is the title track to Judas, is just rock solid. I mean, it's 10 killer songs. Were all these songs just recently written over the last few? I know you said you've been holding on to your music for 24 years, but do any of these songs go that far back, maybe in just a riff or an idea?
Yes. Straight Razor is actually a really old track. I had to go back and grab one just to do it for this record. But Ron and I rewrote it, reworked it. Actually, Jim was kind of in on that too. We reworked it lyrically and tweaked the vocals a bit. But Straight Razor's an old tune. The rest of the songs are all within a couple of years. Nothing is older than 3 years, I would say. 2000. Well, at the time of the recording, right? Because now it's 2022 already. So, stuff that was written in 2000, late 2018, 2019, and then onto the record from there.
Yeah. Well, I know you said, like, when the band first got back together, you first tried to reunite the band, you wanted to get as many of those members from the original classic lineup as you could because you felt like you didn't want to cheat the band. But when do you realize it's not going to work? Maybe it didn't work the first time. Why are we trying a second time? Or is it better just to say, hey, let me just find guys that are into this and want to do what I want to do and play, what Toxik has to play, and just move on into a whole new direction?
Well, it's about the music, man. You want to play the best music you can, and it's a balance between your loyalty to your friends and your bandmates and what you want to do with the band and what's the band about? What is the band really here to do? Is the band here to just be something that we break out and go out and play every once in a while because we like to play? Or are we really going to be a band that releases music and goes out and tours to support it? And those are two vastly different worlds. And finding people who know, which world they want to live in isn't always easy to do. And I think, now that you've got people who know what they want to do with the music, we're in a much better position to do just that. Like we're ready to go as we are now as a unit. And I don't know. I'm for me personally, because it's hard to answer questions for the band without the band being here, right? Like,
yeah.
I would like the band to have more say on this because it was much more of a band effort than just my energy. But for me, where the band is going right now and where it's at right now, the time off through COVID, none of that affected us. We're better than we've ever been. We've got a record coming out. I've got another record coming out a year from now, which is the hope. We can be on time with that. We've got 2 records back to back that we're releasing. We're touring. We're strong. I almost feel like bad saying it. Like I'm a little embarrassed to be so optimistic, but it's really the best it's ever been. I really feel this is the best Toxik has ever been. And as much as I wanted to bring my friends along, for whatever reason, they weren't ready to go with it. And these guys are, and the music is what binds us. And I think we represent it better than we ever have. I feel like we are the closest. Again, the World Circus stuff live sounds like the album. Think This sounds like the album. That's what the
That's
fans
great.
want. Yeah.
That's what they get. Well, you talk about loyalty to band members. I mean, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I'm going out on a limb here trying to remember 35 years ago. But after World Circus came out and you parted ways with Mike Sanders, if I remember reading in some of the articles back then, it was the record label wasn't happy and they kind of wanted him out of the way for whatever reason, and you guys kind of went along with it. Was that like basically the gist of what happened, or was it just more personal stuff and whatever happened happened?
No, yeah, it's. I would say the latter. I think it's more personal. I think that there was a little bit of everything. The label wasn't crazy about Mike at that point. They were looking for something different too. But I don't think that factored in as much as just Mike wasn't happy doing what he was doing. It was just it was his decision. It's always. I don't think anybody's ever really been thrown out of Toxic. We don't. I don't have to. Like if you're not cutting it, you're not going to stay. And it's not easy music to play. There's a pretty high degree of expectation when you show up to rehearsal. You got to know what you're doing. And fortunately, I've worked with people who were honest enough when they weren't cutting it to say it. They were like, "Look, I'm not feeling this. I don't want to do it. I don't think I can do it." I've had people say that to me. "Josh, I don't want to play this stuff. It's too hard to play. I don't want to deal with it." Okay, I can respect that. You know what I mean? So no hard feelings, but the music goes on.
That it does. I mean, you always hear these stories like, bands break up and you figure, members are fighting with each other. There's a lot of infighting going on, but most of the time it's just because bad management, bad record labels, the timing may not have been right. They put everything they could into the basket and it just kind of fizzled out and there was nowhere left to go. I mean, when Toxic broke up in around 92, 93, I mean, was it a combination of all of that? And when that happens, is it kind of hard to let something go that you've put so much time and effort into? I mean, two amazing records. How hard is it to hang up the hat after that point?
Interesting. All of that did go into that. Everything you just laid out is exactly what happened to us, and it's such a common story. That's why you're able to do that. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you put your blood and your sweat into something for 5 or 6 years. You're at an early point in your life where you think everything is going to be a certain way. It's, again, I use the sports star analogy. It's like being, a draft pick in a major league team. If it doesn't go great in your first few years, you're out. You're out as quick as you came in, and you've got great memories, and you get to talk about it, and you're a hero to your friends. But it is a disappointment, and you have to kind of put yourself back together at a young age. And I did. Like, for me personally, it wasn't anything. Like, when Toxic was done, I moved on and I did other stuff, and I didn't look back. Toxic didn't come back because somebody was desperate for it. It just came back because there was a demand. Social media is an interesting thing. It changed the world, and it changed what I was thinking about with Toxic. Like, once I realized people still wanted to hear it, I still write music. So why wouldn't I write music that people want to hear? Like, okay, let's see what we got, and here we are,
Yeah. We had such an amazing club scene here, back in the 80s. I mean, I came from Brooklyn, so I lived like 10 minutes away from Lemoore where every band played. And, we had, actually, it was one in Queens, there was one in Long Island. Long Island had a great club scene, New Jersey. I mean, being up in Westchester, you're only about an hour away from the city, so you're not like you're desolate or isolated. But how was the local scene up there? I remember in New Rochelle, a club called Streets I used to go to all the time. And I used to love going to that place.
Yeah, we played Streets a lot, and that's not really up. That's really down. That's right on the other side of the Bronx.
That's right, New Rochelle, I think.
Yeah, that's like sort of the edge of Westchester right before you get into the Bronx. Up where we are, up in Peekskill, or where we were, there wasn't really anything around us. But we were all city kids, so like for us to come down and hang out in Brooklyn is what you did, or Jersey. Like we were a part of that same scene. We were just the northern contingent, When I was a kid, I can remember the days when, Twisted Sister would come up and play all of the clubs that were in the northern part of Putnam County and Westchester counties. Back in those days, they did have a scene, but that had all closed down. By the time Toxic was going mid to late 80s, it was gone. And then 90s, it changes completely. So up north has never been great, never strong. But we're so close to the city, I don't think we missed it.
I agree. I think, Josh, am I just hearing things, remembering things? But wasn't there talk about a documentary some years back?
No, we started one. We actually, Brian, the bass player, the original bass player, had a friend where he was living in Virginia that was a producer for the Discovery Channel and was going to do a documentary on Toxic, very much like the Anvil thing that was going on when it was going on, the Anvil film. But it just never got done. But that was our first shot at coming back together. That was what brought us back to playing and sort of got the ball rolling at least a little bit, and that was back in 2007, 2008.
Wow.
We got together and jammed for the guy making the doc, and there's some footage of us getting together and playing, and then we put it down for a long time, nothing. But that was sort of fun. That was a cool little moment.
Did you ever think of picking it back up again, maybe with somebody else or on your own? Because it would be fascinating to hear a whole story from you from start to finish. It's more than any interview could cover in 15 or 20 minutes.
What's the question, though? Say that again.
I said, did you ever think about picking up, with a documentary didn't get going, like doing it on your own and getting someone else to come in and make it? Because there's so much to know about this band from start to finish that nobody could cover in a quick interview.
Yeah, no, that's true. It actually might be cool for a documentary. That's a good idea. I don't know. Let me think on it a little bit. Hadn't really considered it, but you're right. It is a pretty good story, and it's a long story anyway. It's got a pretty long arc, so yeah.
That's great. Hey, Josh, I'm not going to keep you, man, because I know you got a whole bunch of these to do. You're not feeling great. I'll give you a little chance to catch your breath between now and the next one. That way you're not rushed and you get to that one.
No,
but
Mike.
I want to wish you a happy birthday. I know it's your birthday today. I'll get you on Facebook, too. Great album on Massacre Records. I believe the official release date is August 5th, so about a week or so away from it. I can't wait for everybody to hear this record. They're going to be blown away by what you put out.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you saying that. Honestly, it's good to hear. I hope everybody thinks that,
I'm sure they will. They just got to give it a listen. Great job, my friend. I'll talk to you hopefully a year from now when the next one comes out.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
You got it, Josh. Take care. Feel better, my friend.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me tell you the scars of my soul.
right, brand new Toxic, Straight Razor, and the song Power. I actually kicked off that set with an old school song. I was going to go with the Straight Razor, but I think we'll save it for after the interview. I want to thank Josh for being on tonight's show. Hey, next week Mirage is on the show, and I know we got a couple of guests lined up for the end of the month. I think Chris from Gravedigger is going to be on the show. We were supposed to have Ripper, but something kind of bombed out with that, so I'm working on a few other guests, but I'll let you know who they'll be. I should have it all lined up by next week for you. All right, as you could tell, metal is in its decline once again, thanks to people like, the Kings of Thrash over there with Dave Ellefson going out doing the Kings of Thrash, which is like, another Megadeth type band. They're out there playing the first 2 or 3 Megadeth records. I believe he has Jeff Young is playing and Chris Poland are doing shows, and I don't know, some other singer. It's just another version of Megadeth, It's just like the Retaliation Megadeth band, I guess. They're going to go out there and play Megadeth songs. They really need to see, Dave Ellefson going out there doing versions of Megadeth music when Dave Mustaine is out there doing them right now. No, just like we don't need Venom Inc. doing Venom songs, we have Venom out there doing it. We don't need, Great White, Jack Russell's Great White when Great White are doing it. It's getting ridiculous. I know I complain about this all the time, but it gives you so much fodder when you hear about these things. This is going to be the downfall of metal, and I blame us. I blame the fans. I blame the people that go to pay to see these artists play. Don't go see them. If you don't see them, they won't do it. They know people are going to show up. Why would you want to see David Ellefson doing old Megadeth songs with a different singer when you go see Dave Mustaine, 2 clubs down doing the same music, the original singer and guitar player and songwriter of the band? I just don't get it, folks. I don't get it. Are we in that bad of a shape that we have to go do these things? I don't know. All right. Also, Whitesnake canceled the tour. David Coverdale, he's got an upper respiratory infection. He's been fighting it for a while now. When you get into your 70s, things happen health-wise, and I guess he was hoping to get through this whole final tour and, be healthy, but it didn't happen. So I'm pretty sure this is going to wind up picking up again in 2023. It's going to be like Kiss, like the 8-year retirement tour, the tour that never ends. It goes on and on and on forever. That seems to be the new things that a lot of bands are doing. Kiss, UFO, they announced a retirement tour, and then they go off like 4 or 5 years playing on the wrist. So don't rush to see the bands the first time around, because I'm pretty sure they're going to make about 5 or 6 more stops in your neck of the woods before they actually call it a day. All right, let's get back to some music here. Iron Allies, brand new band with David Reese and Herman Frank. I was happy. I saw Blabbermouth wrote about it the other day, and they quoted the interview that I did with David Reese when he was telling me about the band for the first time. So thank you to Blabbermouth for giving a little shout out to the show. I do appreciate that. This is a song called Full of Surprises. If anybody knows, I love David Reese as a vocalist, and I love talking to him every time he's on the show. We can go on and on and on for hours. I have to cut him off after a while, because I think after about a half hour, most people lose interest in an interview. So I try to cap it at that time if I can, but love talking to David, and I'm sure when this record comes out, we're going to have him back on the show. Here's Iron Allies, Full of Surprises. All right, we started things off with the brand new song by Iron Allies. Let me know what you thought about it. I think it's going to be a great record. I'm looking forward to the whole thing. And getting David back on the show and Herman Franklin will be talking all about that. right after that Gangland with Metamorphosis. Man, do I love that demo tape. I don't know if anybody ever released it as an album, or a CD, remastered and put it out. I have to look into that, but my God, what a killer demo tape that was. That was Metamorphosis. That was from around 86, I believe, and it features most of the guys from Sound Barrier at the time. Stanley E., Spacey T., and Joe Matoiza, who was on drums, who was also 24/7 Spies. What a great demo tape. I wish a lot more would have came out of that band and that project. Absolutely loved it. And right after that, Mount Fiji with Photograph. I know it's not a song that we would normally play in the show, but I just thought that was funny because it's really loudness. It's almost the entire band of loudness. It's the guitar player, the singer, and the drummer. It might be the bass player, I don't remember. And they went by like crazy names at the time. It was like Akira was Dario De Palma instead of Brian De Palma, the director. It was Martha Spielberg was on keyboards. Josephine Wonder was the singer from Loudness. He went by that name. They had all goofy names. I think there were like maybe 2 or 3 different vocalists on the record, and but it was mostly Loudness. It was a project by them that they did. It was just that one record they came out. I want to say '83, called Human Transport. So I thought it'd be funny to play that. I know it's not great music, but like I said, I thought it'd be pretty funny. Maybe not. All right. All right, let me see. Before I saw that, Violence is going out on tour. I missed them when they were here in New York. I would have loved to have seen that show. But hopefully they'll come back around again. But Phil Dremell's not going to be a part of it because I think he's out there with Lamb of God. And this is something else that a lot of things annoy me. But Violence is his primary band these days, but he's filling in for the guitar player from Lamb of God, so he's out on tour with them. So he has to skip playing with his own band, Violence. So the same thing happened with Gary when he was out there playing with Slayer at Exodus, and it seems to be a common thing where other band members commit to playing with different bands, then their own bands go out, and the key members are not playing with the band because they're committed to another band as a fill-in guitar player. Now I get it. Gary's probably making a lot more money playing with Slayer, playing in front of bigger crowds or audiences, but Exodus was your bread and butter. That's been your band from day one. You got to make that your priority, not Slayer. That should have been your priority. The same thing with Phil. Lamb of God, yeah, you probably filled in before you knew about the Violence tour coming up, but when that happens, then you got to back out of that and go out with Violence. That's your band. So they got Ira Block to fill in for him. So all you have out there are different bands playing without their key members because their key members are playing with other bands filling in for members of that key band that's missing. Is this going to be the new thing now where, we have different members of different bands playing with different bands instead of their own band? I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, I don't know. Color me stupid. I just don't get it. That's just me. All right. How about we do a little sacrilege? Bring out the dead.
You're just
Mistress, Fight the System. People call them the new wave of traditional heavy metal. They've been around a long time, a lot longer than that genre started. All right, we're going to wrap things up here tonight. One more song. I will see you guys next week. Mirage is our guest. I want to thank Josh Christian from Toxik for being on tonight's show. How about we close it out with a little Obsession? Bang them till they bleed. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next Sunday night. Take care and good night.
Thank you.